So a lot of folks are starting to receive their IK Multimedia Tonex pedals. And as is the case with any brand new product, there is going to be a little bit of a learning curve. Now, I did a video last week talking about what I felt was one of the most important parameters in Tonex Pedal. Since I did that video, I received a lot of positive feedback and folks thanking me because it made such a difference, but I'm still seeing a lot of questions about this particular parameter floating around out there, and I'm still getting asked these questions. So I wanted to kind of review that parameter and also talk about something else that some folks have been asking me about, and just to try to put this into a video that we could clear this up so you guys are going to get the most from your Tonex pedal. So without further ado, let's dive right over to Tonex Pedal and Tonex software and see if we can't get this working perfectly for everybody. All right, so here we are over in Tonex software, and I'm actually using as a demo today my just today released tone model bundle, which is going to be based around a Mesa Boogie Mark V. And I've done a very extensive tone model collection of a lot of the various settings and tones from all the channels of this amp. I'll have a link below in the description if you're so inclined. You want to take a look and listen to that. But anyways, let's get on with it. So as we know in Tonex software, we have these parameters and we have some advanced parameters up here. And we see that we have our volume control here for our tone model. Please excuse my voice. I got a little bit of a head cold, trying to struggle through that. So we can use this volume to increase or decrease the volume of our preset. Now that is going to be stored with our preset. So if I was to come and save this, then that's going to be stored at a lower volume, which is fine. That would work out great. Now, if we return that to its default position of 5, we could raise it, lower it, whatever we need to do. But now if I was to load this onto Tonex Pedal with a new setting or just with its default setting, as soon as I change to another preset, obviously we're going to recall the saved volume for that preset. So what if we just wanted an overall volume boost or cut to all of our presets? Now there is one way we can do that, and we can go into global settings. Scroll down to main volume. And see that we can boost up to 3 dB and to cut quite a bit more than that. But that's going to be a global setting. But what about if we just have a preset on the pedal, such as the one that I have up there right now? And you can see here that I have the Cali 5 Alt Tweed 3B. So this is going to be the Tweed preamp mode on channel 1 of the Boogie Mark V, and it's set to about as much gain as you can get. Really, really cool tone. But I've loaded that onto my pedal. Now, if we go down to the pedal and we access the deeper parameters, we see that there's a model volume selection. Now that model volume is actually going to be the same as this volume control that we showed over here on our preset. So we save that, that's going to change as we change presets. But what if we just wanted an overall louder sound coming out of our pedal that's going to apply to all of our presets, so that even when we're foot switching between different presets live or maybe in the studio, that we can just boost and cut all of them? Well, that's where things get a little bit confusing. If we go to our main encoders on our Tonex pedal, we see the last one on the top says volume or depth. Now, just to reiterate something I talked about in a previous video, if I was to long hold my parameter button, you see the little green lettering Alt come up on our display, and that means that we are now controlling what the bottom row says. If I was to long hold that again, the word Alt goes away, and now we're controlling what the top row says. So you'll notice that the last control is volume. That volume control is not to be confused with this volume control in a Tonex preset. This volume control on Tonex Pedal is actually going to be kind of the final output of our pedal. So it's not really a global setting because we can just change it there. But as we switch presets, that volume will stay the same. So if we're set to 5 and we find we're not getting enough volume from our presets, we can crank that up to 10. And as we switch through our presets, that's going to remain at 10. And that's just giving us our full output of what Tonex Pedal is capable of pushing out. Now, one other thing that is extremely important when adjusting the overall volume of our presets is whether we're utilizing a compressor and whether we're utilizing it in pre or post mode. Now, here's the thing. If we have the compressor set in post mode, as I do right here, what is going to happen is if we use the volume control on the amp to just raise the volume of what we want coming out of this preset, it is going to hit the front of this compressor much harder. Therefore, we're going to get much more compression, and it's going to change the sound considerably, and it may not even increase the volume that you want just because the compressor is working the opposite and squashing that volume back down. We're going to lose dynamics, and we're going to have a poorly dialed in compressor. Now, if you have this set to pre, where the compressor is actually before the amp, then we can use the volume. So think of it this way. We have our input of our amp coming sort of on this side, on the far left side. So if we have our compressor here and we turn the gain of the compressor up, we're going to hit the front of the amp harder, and we're going to get more saturation and overdrive out of the amp. So we'd want to be careful with that as well, because this is just makeup gain for the amount of gain we're losing to the compression. So if we're only losing maybe 1 or 2 dB to the compression, then that's all we would want to use as the makeup gain. So we're not hitting the front of the amp a lot harder and changing the sound of that preset. Or you can do that if that's what you want to do. But if we are set in pre, we can use this volume because we boost the volume coming out. It's not going to hit the compressor. It's just going to go to the next thing in the chain, which is the reverb, which isn't going to have the same sort of negative effects that a compressor would. Now, if this is set to post, though, now what we're doing is we're coming in with our guitar from the left here, going through the amp, and now hitting the compressor on the other side. So if we raise this volume up, we are going to affect the way the compressor is reacting, and that may not be what we want. So if we are using the compressor in post mode, which I like to do a lot, if we want to raise the level that's coming out of the output, we can also use the gain control of the compressor here, and we could crank that up, and that's going to act much in the way that this volume control would have worked. So again, if we're in pre, we want to be careful not to use the gain control here because we're going to hit the front of the amp and change the sound of our preset. We would just want to use our volume control on our amp here. And if we're in post mode with the compressor, then utilizing the volume control on the amp is going to hit our compressor harder. Not that any of this is a bad thing, but we just want to be aware that that is what's happening. So in the case of a post compressor, we would want to use the gain control of the compressor to raise or lower the volume of our amp preset within the Tonex software. So that is one question that I had, and a lot of folks have been asking how they can accomplish that. So basically that's how. Now, the other thing that I had previously talked about in a previous video was about the input trim control in our global settings, and I'll show you how to get there. Now you'll notice that we have a range of plus 15 to minus 15. By default, this is set to 0, as you would probably expect. What I did find, though, that in comparison to listening to the Tonex software when plugged into my audio interface, I captured a particular tone model and I was expecting that sound. But when I loaded it onto my Tonex pedal, it seemed to be a little more overdriven. And once I realized that we have this input trim, we can simply go to our software, listen to the preset, the tone model that we're playing through, and then turn this input trim down or up to get it so that Tonex Pedal is reacting and behaving much like your software. So basically, I'm going to show you now how dramatic the difference can be. I've found that for my setup here when I'm capturing, the setting of about minus 13, minus 12, minus 11, in and around there seems to give me pretty much identical results to my software. So I think it was a really great idea for the folks at IK Multimedia to include the input trim so that folks could tweak further on their pedal to have this match up and sound as they would expect when auditioning tones or creating tones with their software. So let's take a listen to how dramatic this can be. So did you catch just how dramatic a change that was? When I cranked that input trim up to 0 or even the plus 15 setting, it was like I was adding a boost pedal or an overdrive pedal in front, and that would make sense. We are now hitting the amp model with much more signal. So finding out that sweet spot for your pedal and then making that setting once so it works as you would expect in comparison to your software is going to be an important part in getting our Tonex pedal to act in the manner that we want it to and sound in the manner that we want it to. This setting that I finished off here around -13, -12 is actually how this tone model sounded when I created it. So therefore, I make that setting once, I leave it alone, and all the tone models I create just work really beautifully with that setting, and everything is good. And I've heard a lot of other folks say the same thing. They've needed to dial that back to match the same sort of sound that they're getting from their instrument inputs on their audio interface. All right, I hope that that was all clear, and I hope that that helps some folks. Those are some of the main questions I keep receiving in regards to setting up Tonex Pedal and maybe why folks aren't getting exactly what they want out of their pedal and the sounds. And I've had a lot of people contact me who I've helped with this, and they say, oh my goodness, I was ready to get rid of the Tonex Pedal, and now everything is fine. That's exactly what the problem was. You know, they'd be playing on their software, and this tone model and preset sounds amazing. They'd load it on their pedal, and all of a sudden it's more distorted, or it needs a little more volume, and maybe their output volume on their Tonex pedal was turned down. They didn't realize it. And they thought that that setting would change when they switched presets. But now we understand how that's all working. And I really hope that that is helpful for some folks to get the most out of their pedal. So thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Please like this video and please share it with anybody who you think could get some help from it, because I really do want to see everybody get the most from this amazing new pedal that the fine folks at IK Multimedia have provided for us. Also, please subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'm going to leave you now with some demos of my brand new Cali 5 Ultimate Tone models, which are now available on my website. There's a link below. If anybody's so inclined and they want to give those a listen and maybe grab some, I think you will enjoy them as much as I enjoyed making them, and I've been playing through them and having a blast with them. So thank you guys again so much for sharing your time with me. I'll be back really soon with some more content. Ciao for now.